You can't bring back the past, and you don't have to chase it either. In this past, my wife has played a big role in my life. And one day, she left me, packed her things, without saying goodbye, disappeared from my life, leaving me with children, a boy and a girl. I'm not a doll maker, but I forgave her. You can't tell her feelings. If she decided that, then something didn't suit her in our life together. I'm not crying. I'm just stating a fact. In the long evenings, walking through the park, which is located in our area, I often remembered our walks here with my Nastia. How merrily she laughed then, whirling in the dance to the accompaniment of the sound of the wind. Her hair lay so smoothly in strands on her shoulders, which seemed to have been sculpted in a heavenly workshop. And I suddenly felt lonely. I wanted to run without looking back, even to the ends of the world. Just not to think, not to hear, and not to see everything that reminded me of my past life. A friend knew my problems in my personal life. No, don't think that I complained to him about my bitter fate. Nothing like that. It's about my mother. She sang to Oleg that I was dying, burning in the furnace of a volcano, and that I needed to be saved. Otherwise, I would not live. He often called my mother, as he was our favorite in the family, not being a relative. Oleg is a good friend, my schoolmate, and the terror of all the dudes in our neighborhood. He lived in Amsterdam for a long time and invited me to move there with the children so that I could forget all the hardships. To be honest, I was even glad of his offer, because I didn't see the point in staying in a place where everything reminded me of her. Of course, I didn't leave for an empty place. I have the right profession. I worked as a programmer in one of the private companies, so I wouldn't have been lost if I could get a job anywhere, especially knowing the language better. Everything is sweet. I just felt sorry for the children. A foreign country, their own customs, culture, way of life, language, it could traumatize the child's psyche. But I thought they could handle adapting to a place they didn't know. When I was preparing to move, I took care of everything here in my homeland. While sorting through all the belongings that we had at home, looking into the closet, I came across my wife's wedding dress, picked it up and unfolded it. Something fell from it with a crash to the floor. I was surprised by this, following the falling object with my eyes. He rolled behind the sofa with a ringing sound, and I rushed after him. I took it out and realized that it was my Nastia's gold wedding ring, which I put on her finger during the wedding. It was a blow. It was a low blow, and I didn't understand why. Why did she do that? I just didn't have an explanation. I just didn't understand what motivated her, because everything was fine. She is a beautiful wife. I am a handsome husband, an athlete with a prestigious job without bad habits. Smart kids, what more could you want for happiness? And we had a good sex life, that's for sure. The whole house heard how my wife and I made love. Maybe it's about me, my manners and actions, but she never told me about it. Even though we had a trusting relationship, but I won't find out anymore. I wondered sometimes. Of course, all this can be called Yaroslavna's crying. But it hurts to the core when a marriage collapses overnight, and like a fool you don't understand what happened. I left the apartment for my mom, in case I had to come back to have somewhere to go. Oleg gave us a temporary residence permit, and we went into the unknown, which promised us difficulties, but no one said it would be easy. Amsterdam appeared before us in all its glory. The children and I really liked the city. It was clean and cozy. It looks like our St. Petersburg, so we were at home. I got a job, or rather Oleg helped with the work. Oleg has his own company, he does software there, so he needs people like me. Time passed. I was busy with the kids, friends, work. I bought a house. I earned decent money, so I had enough for everything. 2 years have passed so unnoticeably. I hadn't met any women. Apparently the wound was still bleeding, tormenting me. Of course, I didn't show it to anyone by my appearance. I kept everything to myself, but I coped with the mental pain. But it's not very physical. You can't go against nature. My body needed intimacy, and my personal life needed to be adjusted. I didn't take a vow of silence, so I met a Russian girl who has been living here since she was a little girl, and her parents brought her with them. So we don't have much of a difference in mentality. We arranged a date in one of the outdoor cafes. The weather was good for this. Svetlana, that was the name of my new friend, arrived a little late. I got worried early and bought a large bouquet of roses and gave it to her, kissing her hand at the same time, inviting her to the table, taking a chair by the back and sliding it under her feet. He invited her to sit down. She was interested in me. I wasn't exactly a handsome man, but the women in my youth, and even then, jumped on me like a hanger, so there was no end to them. We started talking and I told her about the kids and what I was doing. She also told me about her life. Everything went smoothly, and understanding grew between us. But when she asked me for my wife and why we broke up, Svetlana baffled me with this question. I didn't know what to say to her. If you tell the truth, he won't believe you, and who will? After all, there must be reasons. Just like that, a person can't just leave. For this you need good reasons. And I have nothing to say to her. And then I thought, or maybe I should really tell you everything as it is. I should understand that this also happens in life. Svetlana seems to me to be a reasonable person, and he told me everything as it is. I began by saying that I had no idea that nothing foreshadowed such events, that she left without explaining anything. Svetlana frowned, pursed her lips, and gave a slightly sarcastic smile. By her appearance, I realized that Sveta did not believe me and objected. That there's a reason for everything, and in any situation, there's a reason, just like I don't want to admit that men can make mistakes too. Or worse, I could cheat on my wife, but why not? She told me everything, accusing me. Getting personal, she frowned. Her nose was puffed out from overexcitation. Her eyes expressed disdain for her opponent. That is, me. She jerked violently, making the chair creak under her feet, and glancing at me, she finally declared, that we are all men like that, and that we need to cut off our balls so that we don't have to run after every skirt. Svetlana lamented. I was taken aback. My emotions were going through the roof, and all I could hear in my head was, for what? But I didn't want to catch up and justify myself to Sveta. I just can't convince her. I don't seem to convince anyone. Because my story sounds ridiculous from the outside, I'm desperate. A lump rose in my throat. I wanted to burst into tears, but there were no tears. I was shaken. My heartbeat accelerated, and I left the cafe, breathing deeply, not even knowing where I was going, lost in prostration. I don't remember how I got home. He lay down on the bed and stared at the ceiling, which had a bright chandelier. Looking at the light in the chandelier, I wasn't afraid that I might damage my eyes. I was so angry that I thought if Magomed wasn't going to the mountain, then the mountain would go to Magomed. Getting out of bed, I went to the children's room, and after putting the children to bed, I dressed like a cowboy. I didn't have enough imagination anymore, so that I wouldn't be recognized, and left the house. It was 5 minutes past midnight. I knew the goal and was moving towards it. I was torn from everything inside. If anyone saw me now at this moment, they would be horrified. My face resembled a bull about to impale a torero with its horns, which betrayed my determination in my gait. And so, I'm here in the Red Fanari Quarter. Determination was replaced by a feeling of confusion. The streets are narrow. Girls danced in the windows, wagging their hips, so that their outfits looked very provocative on their thin but slender bodies. After wandering for about 20 minutes, not daring to approach anyone, moving slowly, I peered at the women and attracted the men. And when I happened to glance at one of the shop windows, I was speechless. Nastia was standing in the window with a strip club sign. This is nonsense. It just can't be. How can it be at all? It doesn't happen like that. Am I probably going crazy with a nervous breakdown? I was confused, not understanding what was going on. I walked closer to the showcase where my wife was supposedly, pulled a cowboy hat over my eyes and put my hands in my pocket and moved towards this strip bar. Something cold touched my hands, and out of surprise, I pulled my hand out of my pocket, but immediately returned it back. I was surprised that it could be in my hand. So cold, smooth, and I felt some kind of ring. When I took it out, I was dumbfounded. It was Nastia's ring. How could it be here? Did it really lead me to Nastia? And whether it's her at all, I have to make sure. Maybe I imagined it all, but the ring is a sign. No other way? I need to order a dance from her, then I'll figure out if it's her or if I'm wrong. While thinking, I went inside. I went up to the receptionist of this establishment and asked her, the girl in the window, to give me a street dance. The admin didn't mind that. I paid for the service and went into her booth, still hiding my face half under my hat. When the woman came out to me to start her dance, I surreptitiously glanced at her and had needles stuck in my eyes. Yes, it was her, Nastia. There could be no doubt. But I had to make sure to the end by giving her the opportunity to dance with me. She was supposed to have a tattoo of a small spider on her right buttocks. The stripper, moving her graceful body on a pole, simultaneously trying to pull off her bikini, was on the podium towering over me. When she turned her back to me, I noticed that her neat labia stood out from the stripes on the thong that she was wearing. Lifting my gaze higher, which followed her bun, I saw a spider. At that moment, my heart almost jumped out of my chest. Without hesitation, I took out the ring and threw it at her feet. The ring bounced loudly, although it was hard to hear because of the loud hard rock composition, nevertheless forced itself to pay attention to the writhing object, Nastia. When the ring stopped twitching erratically and froze, Nastia froze too. She seemed to be paralyzed. Staring at the ring, with her back to me, Nastia turned around like lightning and tore off my hat, stunned. She covered her face with her hands and collapsed with her knees down, pressing herself to the floor. I put on my hat and walked slowly away, not turning around. I was disgusted to be there. Everything inside me was boiling and seething. And can she really be forgiven? Yes, I'm not a saint, but what did she do? I reproached Nastia for what I had done. I heard a scream and turned around. A body fell into my legs like a sack. Nastia was sobbing, and people passing by looked at us in surprise. She screamed and asked me to forgive her, that she trusted a jerk, that she had fallen head over heels in love with him, as it seemed to her then, promising film roles abroad. After living with him for 2 months in Amsterdam, there was no talk of any filming. Then, outraged, she sent him away and he brutally beat her, kicking her out almost naked, with nothing on the street, taking her passport, and here she is, dancing a striptease to all the rabble. When I told her that the children were here with me, Nastia begged me to come back to her, and that she thought about her babies every day and would like to see them if I let her. But I had no right to forbid the children to see their mother, no matter what she was, especially now she is unlikely to leave them. After all, such a chance is not given to everyone and not always. Would you forgive?